Hello and welcome back to episode 97 of the Hardwood Hoops podcast. I'm Liam, your host, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Ben. After a stag do for both of us this weekend, we are refreshed and back in action to talk about some NBA. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, just about recovered, but enjoying basketball. Let's just get straight off the topic.
Definitely. Ben tried to ruin my stag do by telling me the Mavs lost by like 40 points to the Nuggets on Friday night, and I was very sad about it just before I went to bed. So Ben is very much to blame for that one. But we're back now to talk about some NBA. We probably won't be recording this weekend either because we have the wedding for Set Stag do this weekend. So we're probably going to record in midweek next weekend. Then after that, hopefully we'll get back onto our usual weekend schedule if we can. But let's kick it off, mate, just for a quick chat about season in general. Thoughts so far? It's been quite fun. The refs have very much changed how they're officiating. I think most people seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I enjoy more the people can actually defend. There's a bit more physicality to it. People aren't sort of trying to sell the flops and all those kind of bits and pieces. There's a bit less kind of play acting on the court, and it's made it a lot more enjoyable. That's for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. It's kind of meant, the lowest free throw record so far of the NBA history. Last year was actually the second least amount, and this year's the least. Scoring's gone down, shooting's gone down, three-point shooting's gone down, fouls are down. So yeah, they've really changed it, and defenses seem to be the beneficiary. I think it will go back a little bit to the mean, I think, as the season goes on, but they definitely set their stall out. And I think for the playoffs, it's going to make it even more entertaining when we start getting even more physical when that time comes around.
Yeah, I think so. But that seems a long way off yet.
Yes, it does. It's a long way off. NBA season is truly a grind now with 82 games, but we're looking forward to it. Right, cool. Plan for today, we're going to go back to our usual schedules. We've got some surprise teams to talk about, and then we're going to do some winners and losers, and then we're going to end with our usual game picks. And Ben will be in a very good mood when we get to the game picks because he is killing me to start the season, but plenty of time to turn it around. Let's start with surprising teams, mate. Good and bad. Why don't you kick us off with a team that surprised you in a positive sense to start the season?
Yeah, so a team that has surprised me is the New York Knicks. I know they did well last season, but I wasn't too high on them coming into this season. Didn't think their kind of additions were going to make too much of a difference. But they've been bing-bonging. They're looking very good at the moment, 5-2. What are they, third or fourth in the East at the moment? Doing really, really well. Their offensive rating is the fourth best in the NBA at the moment, which is very, very good. Defensively, not so good, 20 out of 30. But Tom Thibodeau's got them working really well. Kemba seems to have settled in straight away. He's been hitting some big shots for them. Julius Randle is playing well again. Evan Fournier even has sort of embraced his role there and is playing to a really high standard. So this Knicks team is looking pretty good to start the season. Pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. They're one of my options for this as well. I think, like you said, they're leading the league in offensive rating, but they're also leading the league, I think, in 3 points attempted. So a slight different change to last season when they had a lot of mid-range. They still get the mid-range with Julius Randle, but they are shooting a lot more threes with Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, and obviously Emmanuel quickly as well, getting a bit of a bigger role. So I think they're being a bit more modern. Obviously, like you said, the defense has taken a step back, but when you have to add a little bit of offense to keep up with the league, 9 times out of 10, those offensive players aren't going to be great on defense unless they're true elite wing stars. So I think they kind of knew that was going to happen. So if they can get to like 15th to 10th in defense, which I think Tibbs will want as a defensive coach, and they can stay in the top 5-6 on offense, I think they're going to be set for a really, really good season. And they played some hard games as well. They've actually lost their easier games. They lost the Raptors at home and they lost the Magic at home. So they could be unbeaten, really, if you look at the schedule. But yeah, I think they've been pretty good. The fans are pretty excited, and there's a very famous Bing Bong video going around that everyone should watch on YouTube because it's incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. The Knicks fans are really getting behind them this season, and they've got good reason to. It's been a long time since you've had a Knicks team that's consistently good this sort of 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, and it's quite a fun team as well, with a couple of young guys to root for. So yeah, definitely agree with that one. The team I had then, I had the Warriors down. similar really to the Knicks. They were pretty good last season. Obviously, the Knicks were better than the Warriors, but they were pretty good with a bit of a average roster, I would say. Both teams improved over the summer, and now the Warriors are now sit here at 5-1. They're second, I think, in the West, just behind the Utah Jazz. They've had a mixed schedule. They did win, like we said after in our first podcast of the season. They did beat the two LA teams, which is good. Since then, they have kind of played a schedule that they should win. They did lose to the Grizzlies in a close game. They'll be disappointed in at home. They've got the Hornets, Pelicans, Rockets, Hawks coming up. So there's a couple of winnable games there and a couple of more difficult ones. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. But Steph Curry leading the league in points per game, as we thought. Draymond Green has been incredible on the defensive end. Iggy looks pretty good in the first couple of games, took a little step back. Wiggins is as good as usual offensively, and the rest of the team kind of doing all they can. Bjelica looks pretty good. Jordan Poole not playing as well, maybe I thought at least. But I think that's a positive for the Warriors. If he can get his shot back, they're only going to get better. And this is all before Klay Thompson's come back. And me and you had the view preseason, didn't we, that if they can be around 500, sit between 5th and 9th in the West when he comes back, and then he comes back, they can then kind of push on. But if they're already at 5-1 with some easy games coming in the next 6 weeks, I think that the season's looking really good for the Warriors. And they look back to me. Their player rotation and player movement, passing-wise, is just incredible now.
Yeah, the team's certainly deeper than it has been for a little while. Jordan Poole, started quite well and has dropped off. It's just always enjoyable watching Steph. That's something that I think everybody, no matter who you support, you can't not watch Steph and think, what an incredible player.
Yeah, definitely.
He is. He's fantastic. And there's no reason why his team, shouldn't keep doing this well, the way he's playing and everybody's playing around him. If they can get some more consistency from everybody shooting and get Wiseman and Thompson back, well, I mean, this team's only going to get stronger.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think the defensive rules have definitely helped players like Iggy, players like Looney, and obviously mainly Draymond Green, because they can be more physical. And that's definitely been a help. Their defense is one of the best in the league so far this season for rating and for opponent field goal percentage in the paint. So they're playing pretty well. Let's flip the coin then and go on to some teams, I guess, that have disappointed us. I'll start us off this time with a very infamous one, because last year they disappointed you for the whole season. This year they disappointed me early on, and it comes after a couple of weird comments after their latest loss to the Bulls. I've gone with the Boston Celtics, currently in the Eastern Conference. I think they were 12th, so 4th last, 2-5, and they haven't even had the hardest schedule. They've lost to the Wizards twice. They've only just about managed to beat the Rockets. They lost to the Knicks and obviously lost to the Raptors. So they're not playing like the best of the best. They're not playing heavy Western Conference road trips. They've had a lot of home games. And their next schedule is pretty difficult as well. And they've got Heat, Mavs, Bucks, Raptors, your Cavs a couple of times coming up. So, I've just been a bit disappointed with them. I think defensively they look bad. Al Horford's been really, really good. So if your latest signing's been really good and the team is still this bad, it's been a bit confusing to me. And then Marcus Smart comes out and says that Tatum and Brown need to learn to pass the ball, facilitate more, less of everyone else standing around. He didn't use those words, but paraphrasing. And I just think things still don't all seem right. And you can't even trade Marcus Smart this season because of his latest contract extension. So this is kind of your roster for the whole year unless you trade Brown or Tatum. And things don't look right to me, Ben, with the Celtics at the moment. And I was high on them this year, and you were high on them last year.
Yeah, it's not quite working, is it? They definitely need a facilitator. I don't think Marcus Smart is one. I mean, it's him or Schroeder as their kind of chosen point guard at the moment, and I personally don't think that works. I think you need Smart as in your 2 position with a passer at the 1, because Smart is a dog defensively and it's so up and down offensively. It's unreal. Like one night he could hit 9 threes, the next night he could go over 18. Like he's very unreliable offensively. But it's sort of getting hold of that type of player, which will be tricky without giving up one of your superstars, especially if you want a really, really good kind of facilitator. I've got some thoughts on this, but maybe we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, definitely. They need to turn it around. I don't fully know. I do think they can play together. They're both like in the top 8, I think, for scoring for the season. They've both been got a chance of being all-stars. They've both been two of the best players on the team that gets to the Eastern Conference Finals twice. But is there something missing? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's necessarily missing with them too, but maybe you're right. Maybe the third player needs to be somebody completely different. And you kind of need less Al Horfords, less Marcus Smarts, less Schroeder, and they all need to be combined into like one salary for one player that's really good at facilitating. But like you said, who that player is very difficult to know. I think Schroeder and Marcus Smart are both good sixth men. Neither of them are good to be your lead role in terms of ball handling. So yeah, a bit of a worry. And there's a lot of murmurings that a lot of Celtics fans are now starting to think that Jaylen Brown is actually better than Tatum after how last season ended and this season started. So it does seem like things are all up in the air in Boston, but we'll see what happens. Which team have disappointed you then that you had on your list?
The team that has disappointed me so far is the Portland Trailblazers. I knew their defensive ability wasn't going to improve massively, but their offense has taken a massive hit. They're currently 3-4 at the moment, and Damian Lillard is in one of the worst shooting slumps of his career, as is CJ McCollum, which is horrible to see. They are so awful at the moment, game in, game out. Damian Lillard for the season is 23% from three.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great at all. So I don't know whether if their shooting percentages improve, does that automatically turn this team around and they start getting some more wins under their belt, or is it really getting to that point where they need to do something about this team and blow it up, because something needs to change in Portland drastically.
Yeah, what is that though, in your opinion?
They've got two options really. It's three options. Move CJ and try and get somebody different to help Dame. They move Dame and get as much in as possible in return, or they move them both and just go full rebuild mode.
Yeah.
Tricky to know what's going to happen over the next kind of couple of months.
Yeah, I agree. I do think the shooting will obviously improve, but the overall teams isn't great, does it? I don't think the defense looks better either with the new coach and the new scheme. I think the defense looks the same as it did before. Maybe a little bit better when Larry Nance is on the floor, but he's not going to play 40 minutes a game. So I do think the defense, which is what we worried about last season, I think that's as bad as it has been, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems that way. Their two main guards don't really want to buy into playing too much defense. I think they wanted Powell and Covington to do a bit more defensively, but they're not completely bought into it. I don't think Larry Nance has been fine defensively for them, but you can't leave him out there for too long because he doesn't give you what you need offensively in terms of the way this team plays. So it is a bit of a muddle over in Portland at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's move over then from surprising teams into our usual segment that we do throughout the season, our winners and losers. We're going to go 2 winners each and 2 losers each. Why don't you start again, mate, on this one? Let's go winners on a positive note first. Who's a winner so far since we last recorded?
So not like a massively incredible record at the moment. They're 3-4. But the Sacramento Kings are winners for me at the moment. I don't know if you've watched them play, but they have been very good defensively. Like majority of the time, very good defensively. They seem to be playing really well together. It's still quite a young unit, really, with the players they've got. But they seem to be kind of finding their feet and working as a team. They're kind of where Memphis were 2 seasons ago, it seems. They've got a lot of young pieces, a couple of vets in there, and they're just finding their sort of stride at the moment. Yeah, it's really, really good to see. So I've been really impressed with the Kings so far. And if you do get to watch a Kings game at some point, or even just like their extended highlights, they're quite a fun team to watch as well. Very energetic, want to move quickly. And like I said, the defense has been brilliant.
Yeah, I watched them against the Warriors and the Mavs, and they got trashed by the Warriors. But against the Mavs, they were pretty close. They were leading at times, and the kind of 3-point shot fell towards the stopped falling towards the end of the game. But they're definitely a fun team with some good young players. I think if they got a good head coach in there and had maybe one more good off season, I think that'd be interesting. But Harrison Barnes looks like a player that's remade, and if I was them, I know they probably want to make the play-in tournament, but I would just be tempted whilst he's playing this well to try and trade him and just kind of get whatever you can back, even if that is to the 76ers for Ben Simmons. I just think that when he's playing this well and he's hit, get 2 game winners or 1 game winner this season, I'd be interested to see how much value you could get for someone who's that old and has only got like 1 or 2 years left of his contract.
Yeah, because people you forget De'Aaron Fox is only 24. He's still young. I always thought Buddy Hield was younger. He's 29. But, the oldest player is Tristan Thompson, who's 30. It's not a massively old team. Even Harrison Barnes is only 29. But yeah, is it worth maybe seeing what's on offer out there for him and getting a couple more younger guys coming in and just go full kind of young talent and build from there? I don't know, but I've enjoyed watching them so far this season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that any Kings fan, to see them competitive so much is pretty, I don't know, it's just a fresh start, I think. Even though they still hate the head coach, I just think seeing these wins and these performances will definitely give them a little bit of a boost. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how long they can kind of continue that for the season. My first winner then, I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. And the reason I said Jimmy is because he's the only player, it seems, in the league, apart from maybe Giannis, that isn't being affected by the new free throw rules. He is leading the league in free throws scored, and he's second, I think, for free throw attempts. So he's had an incredible season, getting to the line, gets there whenever he wants. He was really good yesterday against the Mavs for Miami. They're obviously having an incredible season. I think they're first, aren't they, in the East, 6-1 record, played really, really well. Best defense in the league, which Jimmy's a big part of. And the other reason I put kind of Jimmy and the Heat is Kyle Lowry has really taken a lot of the ball handling off Jimmy. He is not having to do as much. He can focus on what he's good at. He's getting so many more easier looks than he used to get. And I just think he's a winner because of the team built around him. And they're a winner because they played really, really well. And to me, I had them as third in the East. I just can't see them finishing much below that at all. They just look like maybe the best team in the league for me at the moment overall. So yeah, impressive start, I think, for the Heat. What have your thoughts been on that?
Yeah, I mean, the Heat have kind of surprised me. Tyler Hero's found some form again. He's been playing really, really well off the bench. I feel like last season was a bit of a... maybe he was trying too hard to live up to the hype and he needed that kind of dip in performance to sort of level him back out, maybe. But, I mean, he's averaging 22 points. He's playing really, really well. Bam has been fantastic for them, offensively and defensively. We said before this season started, this is a really deep team if everybody hits form. Sort of 1 through 9, you could argue are really, really good. And it's good to see Udonis Haslam's got 2 games under his belt.
Yeah, I did see that he played, which I found funny. The man's never going to go away, is he?
Nah, never. No, but I've been really impressed. Jimmy Butler is definitely at the table to talk about MVP currently, and Kyle Lowry seems to be the sort of game changer that Goran Dragic used to be for the Heat, but kind of maybe fell off last season.
Yeah.
So this Heat team's dangerous.
Yeah, they got a tough schedule coming up. I know we just slagged off the Celtics, but still 2 good wings there. They got Celtics, Jazz, Nuggets, Lakers, Clippers, Jazz again. So if they come out of that and they're still sitting at like, I'm not going to do the maths of how many games that is, but they're sitting at like 11-2 rather than like 9-4, then God, they could be even better. Like, I think we both agreed that in the playoffs they'd be really good. I was a bit higher on them in the regular season than you were, but I think they could be a top regular season team if they keep this intensity up. The defense is very good. Yeah. Cool. Let's move over then. Your next winner, mate. Who you got?
Oh, my next winner on this list is the Chicago Bulls.
Ooh.
Chicago
Bulls are back.
Bulls. Yeah, they're definitely back. 7th in the league offensive rating and 5th defensive rating. We came into this season thinking they were going to struggle defensively, and they seem to be doing very, very well, which is brilliant to see. I knew they'd be fine guards-wise in terms of Ball and Caruso sort of shutting down guards, but they seem to have been doing fairly well across the board. So hats off to them. Offensively, they've been really, really good. DeRozan has been such an asset to them because whenever Zach LaVine starts to struggle, DeRozan steps up. Vucevic has had his ups and downs, and Alonzo and Caruso have just been doing the things that they need to do, a bit of the dirty work and moving the ball and passing. And it's just a really well sort of knit team. They all clearly love playing with each other, love playing for the organization and the coaches. And it is showing on the court. It is showing on the court. So the Bulls are a winner at the moment for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. What are your thoughts on their defense?
Yeah, so it has surprised me how good it has been. But I'm still not 100% convinced it's going to hold out throughout the season.
Yeah,
I think Vucevic can be found out in the middle.
Yeah, so Vucevic looks bad defensively. He's the only thing when I watch their games, I'm like he looks. Honestly, some people look bad. Like I don't know. I watched the map. So Porzingis last year looked bad defensively, but Vucevic, because they're so relying on him, they haven't got many bigs at all, have they? That he's out there so much, and when it comes to fast breaks, and you watch him try and defend on a fast break running back or pick and roll switch, it's nothing's happening there. And they've also lost Patrick Williams, haven't they? I believe it's for the whole season potentially with a wrist injury. So yeah, that Caruso signing that you loved, that's actually more important now because I know he's not the same. He's not going to defend fours like Williams is, but without him, they'd really be struggling because Patrick Williams is a big loss for them. So I think the defense is maybe a little bit fraudulent, but if they could just be average on defense, the offense looks good enough, doesn't it?
Yeah, and at the moment they've got some leeway with that defense. I mean, you look at the way they played in the fourth quarter against Boston Celtics the other night. Incredible. I mean, it didn't help that Boston weren't really hitting shots, but that's because Chicago was sending doubles towards Tatum and Brown and forcing them to kind of give up the ball late, which means they didn't get a very good shot off, whereas the Bulls kept moving the ball. DeRozan hitting mid-range. Well, DeRozan hit, I think it was 2 or 3 threes from the corner, which we haven't seen DeRozan do for ages. This Bulls team is just playing very, very well together. Very well.
Yeah, they're another team as well. It's got a hard schedule coming up, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Cool. I'll go on to my next winners then. This one's a bit controversial because there's a very specific reason. And winners and losers are not always down to on-court reasons. So I've gone with the Brooklyn Nets. They're 8th in the conference, 4-3. Not great. James Harden looks fat as anything. That's probably a bit harsh. Looks 20 pounds overweight. Not played very well at all. Can't get to the free throw line. KD playing incredible. But the reason I say this is because New York has a new mayor, and that new mayor has said that when he comes into power on the 1st of Jan, first thing he's gonna do is review the vaccine mandate. And there's strong rumours, according to New York press, that there will be no vaccine mandate, at least definitely for sports. So there's a chance that Kyrie could be coming back to this team. So I put them as winners because they look like they need him at the moment. And I think if this happens, which all reporting says it will happen at some point after January, they need Kyrie back, and I think they're going to get him back at some point, maybe middle of Jan to start a Feb. And I think that the fact that news came out a couple of hours ago, I think that's such a huge win for this team.
Yeah, wow, that would be incredible if that does come to fruition, because there were mumblings and murmurs that they were shopping around for Kyrie to see what they could get back in return, because they didn't think it was all going to kind of pan out the way they wanted to. But if it's just sort of hang on till January, then you definitely will. I mean, they're playing fine, I guess, without him. They've had some ups and downs, but they're still, where are they? They're 4-3. They're still above 500, so you can't really complain. Especially seeing as Harden's not been playing well as well. So get Kyrie back. Harden's sort of job role changes then. He becomes the facilitator with Kyrie as the second scorer. and then Harden becomes your third option scorer, I think that improves the Nets no end.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it'd be nice to see James Harden get fit as well before that happens to try and improve it. But yeah, they sit with an okay record at the moment, but they're definitely been underwhelming. Who's your next winner?
I've done my two.
I've done it. We're on to losers. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
Losers. Why don't you go first again? First loser for this week.
So my first loser for this week is the Boston Celtics. Now, I know we've mentioned them already, but I did really want to address them and their woes a little bit further and maybe float a potential idea with you. I'm sure you've heard this already. But trading either Tatum or Brown for Ben Simmons, I don't know how it can be worked out or whether it can, but would this help both teams? The Sixers get an outside wing who is a scorer, can help spread the floor, can also take it inside, and when sort of engaged, can defend fairly well. The Celtics then get that distributor. They get somebody that can help them defensively, and they keep hold of one of their marquee scorers. For me, I quite like this trade at the moment, but it probably will never ever happen. But I think the Celtics need to be exploring something at the moment, because this is 2 seasons in a row now where they've had 2 All-Stars and been dreadful, and something needs to change. They've tried the coach. I know it's still early in the season. Maybe he needs a bit longer, but something else needs to happen.
Yeah, in terms of Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons, that trade actually does work financially for both teams straight up if you swap one for the other. However, I don't know which. I think one team would want. I think both teams would actually want something back. With how they value their own player. Darren Morey, obviously, thinking Ben Simmons is valuable, like same value as a true star. Celtics love Jaylen Brown, so they'll think that Ben Simmons after the playoffs is worse than Jaylen Brown, which I probably would agree with, that he is worse. So I'd be interested to see how that would work. But yeah, no, that does work in the trade machine on ESPN. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think it would. I don't know if I would do it, if I'm honest, but I think it would definitely improve Philly. I would rather have not given Marcus Smart that contract at the date and do it a week earlier, so you could trade Marcus Smart and maybe Robert Williams and people like that together at the deadline and get someone who's a bit of a facilitator, but they can't do that, so they're kind of stuck till next summer. So they're going to be praying that someone gets bought out. Some point guard somewhere in the league gets bought out towards the middle of the season, and they can kind of benefit from that. But who that is, I'm not sure. I'd be interested to see if they try to trade for Colin Sexton. That'd be one that maybe would work, but I don't watch him well enough to know if he can actually facilitate or if he's more of just a pure scorer.
I think he can when he wants to. He's definitely more of a scorer, I'd say. But
get all the scorers on one team, no passing.
They could maybe go for Goran Dragic.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Jalen Brunson from the Mavs. Get Porzingis involved. You get a third team going, potentially. Yeah, there's some options out there, but yeah, they definitely need someone else to help from that side, because the rest of the East looks super strong, doesn't it? With the Knicks, Bulls, and Heat arguably playing better than everyone thought. Maybe not the Heat. A lot of people were high on them, but the Bulls and Knicks and Heat potentially playing better than they thought, and the Wizards playing better than people thought. The East looks a bit loaded, doesn't it? So the Celtics are in a bit of a tricky predicament. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. My loser then, I'm going to go with one team that I mentioned before. Actually, I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. They were a candidate for my surprising team as well, because they've been pretty poor. Their record is 2-6. Offensive wise, they're actually scoring less points after improving their head coach this year. So things to me don't look quite right for them from a point of view. Their defense looks really, really poor. They have had some hard games, but they've also struggled in some other games. They got beat by the Raptors twice, and then also by the Wizards. I know they did beat the Heat, and the other games are against teams like the Nets and the Bucks. They've had a pretty hard schedule, but I think there's some really winnable games there between the Hornets and Wizards and Raptors, and they just haven't done it. And I just think the team look a little bit worse than I thought. They can't trade Malcolm Brogdon, so he's kind of locked in. So it does seem to be the age-old debate of Turner versus Sabonis. And I think you just got to trade Miles Turner as soon as you can, really, to try and spark some life into this, because I thought Rick Carlisle would help them. And it is very early. That's a caveat with everything we talk about at the moment. But for me, they just look pretty poor, especially on offense, which is the real worrying factor, I think.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting a little bit more out of the Pacers. They seem to kind of be an all or nothing team at the moment. They're either blowing a team out or they are just looking absolutely awful. They even had that game where Turner had a ridiculous amount of points. It was like 40 points or something, and they still lost that game. I don't really know what the answer is for them at the moment. Like you said, apart from maybe moving on from Miles Turner and seeing what they can get back in return. But yeah, it's not. It's such a shame as well because I love the coach and the players they've got. I think it's a really nice roster. I mean, they're maybe a superstar short, perhaps somebody to work alongside Sabonis, but I expect them to be a little bit higher than they are currently.
Yeah, and they got the Knicks, Pacers, Kings, Nuggets, Jazz, 76ers, then Knicks in their next 8 games. So that's a tough run as well. Really, really tough run. Be interested actually to see. They're going to come up later in another segment. But interested to see them in a couple of these games because I think they need to pick up some wins as soon as they can, or else it's could spiral into a bit of a losing season and a trade everyone sort of year. But we'll see. Cool. First you had the Celtics then, mate. Who have you got next on your list of losers?
The Bucks. They're not necessarily like a big loser at the moment, but they're 4-4. They've had a lot of injuries. Giannis is still looking incredible, but they are not as threatening as I thought they were going to be early in the season. With kind of not many changes to the roster and just a couple of people added, I thought they were going to walk into this season and be sort of fairly dominant from the beginning. But yeah, a record of 4-4. It's not particularly exciting. 15th offensively, 13th defensively. They're just looking quite average at the moment. And I'm sure that will pick up going forward. I think they'll hit some form and they'll probably go on like a 7 or 8 game winning streak. But they've just not been overly impressive early in the season. And I think it is down to the injuries and illnesses and bits and bobs. Lots of people sat out. So I think it will come for them, but they've just not been impressive this early on.
No, I agree. I think this is quite a good loser as well because you have to look at the landscape of the league. And like we keep talking about, the rest of the East look really, really strong. So that is part of this because a lot of teams I think that can maybe defend them better. I think the Bulls, Knicks, 76ers, the Heat, Knicks, 76ers, and even the Raptors defensively can all defend them relatively well compared to other teams. So I think, yeah, they are a little bit of losers. They've had a lot of injuries, like you said, but I think for me, the defense has been the worrying part. I think they've had a couple of games where you think they wouldn't let teams score into the 100, 110s, but they have done. So I think it's the defense that's struggling. And like you said, the injuries are a bit of an issue. But yeah, Giannis still looks great, but you don't rely on everything, do you? Just to try and win 50% of your games at the moment. I think they need everyone else to help out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. My loser then. So I had 2 options here. I'm going to mention the first one in passing, just because I talked about the Pacers and Mavs quite a lot on 2 other pods. So I don't want to do both, but Mavs just losers because the offense has been second worst in the NBA after being the best in the NBA. And Porzingis is out with back injury. However, this is the same thing that the Mavs always do when they're trying to trade someone, as they say, lower back tightness. So watch that space for that one. But my real loser I wanted to put down was the Clippers. I wasn't high on them with the injuries, but a lot of national media still had them as like, 6th, 7th in the West. But for me, they've not looked great. I think Paul George has looked fine, but overall, they're sitting at a record of 2-4. We all know how strong the West is, so I think these games do matter, even early on in the season. Their shot is not falling at the rate it was, which is something me and you mentioned, that a couple of players that shot well in the playoffs maybe not be able to carry that on. So for me, I just had them as losers because I think the West looks really strong. They look a little bit weaker than I think the media thought they would. And I just think they're going to struggle to be anything more than a play-in team for me.
Yeah, I think coming out of the bubble, people were high on them, even without Kawhi Leonard there for the majority of the season. Looking at the way Reggie Jackson played in that kind of last run in the playoffs, thinking Luke Kennard will step up and Eric Bledsoe will be a really good addition, and Nick Batum will carry on playing to the way he was. They added some nice players, but it doesn't seem to be quite gelling as of yet. They're certainly missing Kawhi, that's for sure. And they have got a few injuries at the moment. I think they'll get a couple more wins under their belts, but I can only see them being in that lower half of the West, I think, as the season rolls on. Fall downwards, basically. If you expect anything more from them, I think you are a little bit deluded.
Yeah, I would agree. And a lot of people were high on them as well, but to be fair, me and you have kind of stayed consistent that Kawhi's just too good. Yeah. And some of the back pieces are a little bit older now and a little bit injury prone, and it's just not going to work. So, yeah. And now let's talk about our game picks then, how we end every episode. We're picking games not against the spread, but straight up on who wins, who loses. After the first week of action, you were 2-1 up, mate. And then we've had another podcast since then. So now you are 4-2 up. We both picked the Warriors to beat the Kings, which they did. We both picked the Celtics to beat the Rockets, which they did. But you also did pick the Hornets to beat the Magic, which they did quite comfortably. So overall now you are 4-2 up in our points. So you are 4-2 up going into a big week here. Plan is, again, we're going to do 2 games each. One game has to involve what we call contenders, and the other game has to involve more play-in/tanking teams. So why don't you start us off, mate, with your... let's start with play-in and tankers first. We go for the worst teams first. Which game have you got?
Nice. So I've gone for the Hornets versus the Kings. 2 exciting young teams going head-to-head. It'll be very interesting to see who comes out on top. I've found this quite difficult to decide, but I have settled with the Hornets winning this one.
Interesting. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go Kings. I'm going to go for some Harrison Barnes magic. I think the Hornets are probably favoured in the game, which I think does make sense. But I'll go with the Kings. Why not? A bit of Halliburton love. I think they've looked pretty good. When their shots fall, they'll score a lot of points. And I wonder, maybe can the Hornets keep up with that? But if the Kings aren't shooting well, then yeah, it could be lights out for them. But I'll go with the Kings just to keep things interesting. And on that note, I also have the Kings in my game. So we tried to do it this way, so we talk about more teams, but we're going to talk about the Kings. I've gone with the Pacers versus the Kings, with the Pacers kind of really needing to win. It's their most winnable game of the next 6-game spread after tonight. That's 11 p.m. on Sunday. And in terms of who I think is going to win, I think overall it'll be a pretty even game. I think both teams do like to go inside out a little bit. I can't have a podcast where I pick the Kings twice, not knowing that you were going to put the Kings in. So I'm going to lean with my boy Rick Carlisle. I'll go with the Pacers, get them a win. They're desperately going to need it at this time. So I'm going to go Pacers just to slightly outscore the Kings.
Nice. I'll settle for the Kings on this one, on this occasion. I think their pesky little guards are going to be too much.
Interesting. Let's move up then to our contender games then. I got a pretty good one, I think, so I'll go first. I've got the Knicks versus the Bucks. 11:30 on Friday. So with the clocks going back last week, we do get an earlier tip week this week. 11:30 on a Friday night's a pretty good time for this game. The crowd's going to be going crazy. Knicks obviously playing incredibly well. Bucks are the champions that maybe are slightly underperforming, so they need to get back into the swing a little bit. Giannis versus Randall will be fun on both ends because Giannis will try and demolish him in that matchup. In terms of who I think is going to win, I want to say the Knicks, but I think I'm just going to have to go Giannis and the Bucks in that one.
Yeah, I'm going to double up with you there. I think Giannis is coming out on top.
What do you think? Could be a relatively close game, or do you think it could be a blowout?
Yeah, I think it'll be close still. I think, especially as the Bucks are missing a few key pieces at the moment, I think that's the reason it'll be close. I think if the Bucks were at full strength, it'd be a different story.
Nice. What's your game then? Last game for this segment. Who have you got?
So I have picked the Hawks versus the Suns. The Hawks struggling a little bit, but an extremely deep team. The Suns slowly getting into their kind of form. But I think Ayton is out at the moment. I'm not sure when he's meant to be back. But in this matchup, I'm going to side with the Suns.
Interesting. I think I want to say the Suns as well. Let's go Kings. Kings. I've got Kings on the brain here. Let's go Hawks. I don't know why, but I'm going to trust that Ayton is out unless you've duped me
He's
there.
out
And
for this game, but
when is this game?
Saturday, so a little bit of time.
A little bit of time. I'll still go with the Hawks. Why not? Trae Young hasn't played that well this season. The offense not looked great. So let's say they turn it around a little bit in this game. I'll go with the Hawks. You go with the Suns. So that means for this week, our 4 games, we have Knicks v Bucks. We've both gone Bucks. Hawks v Suns. I've gone Hawks. You've gone Suns. Pacers versus Kings. I've gone the Pacers. You've gone the Kings. Then Hornets versus Kings. I've gone the Kings. You've gone the Hornets. So we've got a fair steady amount of Kings to watch this week, mate, if we want to watch our bets. So we'll see how that goes. You get the Kings on, you get the Hornets on, perfect. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Another fun one. We're going to be back probably midweek next week again before we get back into our schedule, like I said. So enjoy some early tip-offs for the rest of the week before America change their clocks, and we will speak to you guys soon.